You're listening to the Indie 500 podcast, where each week we break down a different record from the NME Top 500 Albums list. Enjoy.
The Indie 500 podcast is trending at number 68 in the UK. Y'all have boosted her up. I have tasted recipes for Meet Me in the Bathroom. I was not offended, for I knew I had to rise it above it all or drown in my own shitty puns. Here to put a glide in your stride and a dip in your hip. Breddy shredding the nylon on the Mothership.
One, two. Jump two.
So, a long time ago, the local Museum of Pop Culture here in Seattle was once known as the Experience Music Project. It was established by the late Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen in the year 2000. And when it opened, there was one particular attraction that we want to remember today. Sadly, because it's now lost forever, besides a couple of YouTube vids. But when the museum perhaps the craziest and most impressive part of the whole endeavor was a state-of-the-art hybrid high-end theater / motion platform virtual ride. It would hold up to 38 people at a time who would be strapped into seats on a moving platform. It would produce smell effects and wind effects. It was surrounded by 24 speakers and a clamshell gigantic movie theater screen that could project 70 millimeter footage. So,
Yeah,
just imagine that for a second.
I have one in my living room now. Don't you? Yeah.
I mean, we all have a machine now.
Yeah.
The experience is actually designed for different artist journey experiences that they would change every once in a while, but because of frequent breakdowns, it only ever actually featured one called Funk Blast. And in Funk Blast, an extremely early version of facial capture and deepfake technology was used to de-age James Brown by 30 years and insert him into a short film where he guides the traveling journey through the funk, featuring performances, among others, by this week's album band, Parliament-Funkadelic. And actually, in one of the few archival videos I could find about Funk Blast, Herbie Hancock had just written it. And he has a big, huge grin, and he said it was a rush and it was thrilling. Anyways, the long walk there is to say, this is the Soundcheck question of the week. If you could build a theme park ride out of any artist or album, which would you choose and what sort of ride would it be? I'll let you go first.
Yeah, for sure. Instantly, though, because of the imagery, and maybe this isn't for all kids of all ages, but I went to Iron Maiden.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It sounded like you were going somewhere there.
Oh, no. So I kind of thought about what if you took the Small World ride at Disneyland and turn each continent into a different Iron Maiden album and had different music playing through it, and then like different scenes of Eddie, coming down and raining terror, and like the latest album.
They've already got like 1/4 of that built.
Oh, exactly. They got the Japanese looking Eddie on the most recent album. They've got like the Trooper version, the Power Slave, like Egyptian pyramid type stuff. So just get the rest of it done. And then there's probably a part where Bruce Dickinson is making fun of Americans on one of the sections. And I think you get it's a small Iron Maiden world after all right there.
Yeah. All right. That's quite a coincidence, because my theme park ride, I was also looking at replacing a part of Disneyland.
Ooh, okay.
So first, to kick it off, let me read 2 dates for you, okay? The first is May 31st of 2019, and the second date is December 20th of 2019. Are they ringing a bell? Okay. May 31st, 2019 is when Disneyland opens the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the gigantic Star Wars themed land inside the park.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's a big success. Everybody loves it. I've been there once. I shed a tear when I rounded a corner and saw a life-size Millennium Falcon. I'm sure it happened to you too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. It still does.
The second date. The second date, December 20th, 2019, shortly after, is the debut of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Okay? Not everybody loves it. And needless to say, Episode 9 did not do Galaxy's Edge any of the favors they may have been expecting by lining the dates up that way, right? Okay?
Yeah.
So here's what I'm saying to Disney. I'm not saying Star Wars is dead. Andor's right around the corner. Yeah. Plenty of people still want to see Star Wars. Maybe you're over-leveraged a little bit, including a whole gigantic section of the park just for Star Wars. Let's diversify the portfolio a little bit. Let's hedge the bets, right? Okay, here's my proposal. Shut down the Rise of Resistance ride for 1 year and convert it into a fully realized motion ride / 4D experience based on the 1994 Aerosmith themed on rails shooting arcade cabinet Revolution X. Do you remember Revolution X? Okay.
Whenever I download like a Super Nintendo emulator or
Yeah.
anything like that's one of the 50 games I have to grab. So
All right.
I very well
Perfect.
remember it.
Okay,
And
so you know
there's
what
the
I'm talking
gun where
about.
you
All
shoot
right.
records out of it and CDs. Oh yeah.
Yep. Okay, so for anyone who's not in the know, here's the premise of Revolution X from the Wikipedia page, all right? So it's in a dystopian version of 1996 Los Angeles. And already, do I need to go on? It's Aerosmith's dystopian 1996 Los Angeles theme park ride, okay?
Man.
You're in line, right?
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Just, you don't need to get rid of Star Wars Land. Just give me a corner of it for Revolution X.
Yeah.
Okay, so in a dystopian version of 1996 Los Angeles, a fascist alliance of corrupt governments, megacorporations, and military forces have taken control of the world, and they're known as the New Order Nation, or the NON. And the NON have declared war on everyone aged 13 to 30 and banned all forms of music, television, magazines, and video games. And really, there's not much in that game's presentation that I would want to change, to turn it into like a cool, trackless kind of experience ride thing like Disney has now. The game itself is already like an on-rails kind of House of the Dead shooter. It starts off with the player like machine gunning down hordes of these like stormtrooper-looking military SWAT guys while driving on their way to Club X in Los Angeles to go see Aerosmith perform live. And then the band is captured by NON troops in the middle of their show. Okay, and the first part is action-packed, and then in the middle, like your little track thing like arrives at an Aerosmith show that you get to watch for like a minute or two, right? Like, doesn't that sound awesome?
I mean, as long as
I don't know
it's
who
like
else has
old
been
Aerosmith, yeah.
I don't know
the
who
Armageddon
else has
song,
been
I'm
to
out of there.
Disneyland, yeah. That's at the end. That's when you're exiting to the gift shop. But like I was thinking one of the rides at Disneyland right now is they've got like a Mickey one that's based on like their kind of newer cartoons, and in the middle of that ride you take a little bit of a break where you go into a room where like Daisy Duck like teaches everybody to dance, and your little track, like your little thing that you're sitting in, like sways back and forth. Like it would be like that, but you get to go see Aerosmith. But yeah, like
you can't just have C-3PO hijack Star Tours and go to different Aerosmith concerts from throughout time.
I would ride that too. If they're not going to give me the budget, I'll I could definitely work with Star Tours.
Scalable idea.
Yeah. I was going to say, I've always thought that game's premise was more, it would have fit Guns N' Roses better, right? Like you kind of look at that game and you're like, it feels like they asked Guns N' Roses and they turned them down, and they were like, who else can we get? But when I looked it up, I actually found out that oh, go ahead.
Knowing Axel, he probably thought that there's no future in video games, so why would he do something so stupid?
And when I did a little research on it, I actually found out that Public Enemy was the group that they originally went to ask if they wanted to be like the starring group. But I guess they turned it down because they didn't want to deal with, what they were dealing with and the kind of moral panic that like Mortal Kombat had plunged violent video games into. And Revolution X is not it's not a non-violent game. Like if you go back and watch videos of it, like you're shooting like 50 of these guys every minute, and they're like blowing up into like red chunks and stuff. So I kind of get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not fatality gruesome, but it doesn't shy away from the violence either.
No, yeah. So that was my treatise on what.
Nice. So we're taking over.
Right, I'm wanting.
We're taking over Disneyland with Aerosmith and Iron Maiden.
Yeah. Coincidentally, we both took a bite out of Disney.
Hey, we're giving our money, so I guess we get a little.
Yeah, we should get a say.
Exactly. All right, let's roll the theme.
Here is something you should understand. Helio research we will stand. And it's a podcast and you will love it. It's It's the Indy 500.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to the Indy 500 podcast. I think 20 minutes in now, after a bit of a jam and a talk, we're finally ready to rock and roll. But this is a show where myself, Helio, Novell, and my co-host, Breddy Tidgewater. Say hi, Breddy.
Hey.
We are making our way randomly through Enemy Magazine's top 500 albums of all time. Today's album from the list is number 213, One Nation Under a Groove by the legendary Funkadelic. Not Parliament,
Yeah.
not P-Funk, not Parliament-Funkadelic, not the Parliaments, but Funkadelic.
Oh.
And we'll talk a little bit more
Yeah.
about that later.
Get it right.
So I think to get us started, though, we do have a little callback from our Shins episode, don't we, there?
Yeah, we have a Unsolved Mysteries update. So when we did the episode for the Shins, we sent a few emails around, particularly to the local Seattle studio that they had what we had thought was just finished the album off at. They're called Avast Studios, and they did email us back. It was after we had recorded the episode, but we did want to read off the email that they had sent to us, and I'll let Helio do it.
Yeah, so this is from Stuart Hallerman. He's the head over at Avast. He got back to us super kind, and we're hoping to have him on the show sooner rather than later. But he said, "Hi, friend." We'll edit that. Sorry about the slow reply. I was around for their Seattle sessions, but not engineering, just hosting and slightly observing. Shoots is up there in the pantheon of great and well-loved albums out of Avast. As you know, they had success home recording their first album and decided to repeat that on their second, adding Phil X mixing to the process. On the scheduled date, they arrived with 97% of it tracked, but asked, "Phil, can we overdub the last few vocals and a couple of guitar parts here?" Of course. So prior to mixing, they put up a vocal mic and a guitar amp. They love this new sound so much that they went on to Argument and replaced a lot of the bass guitar vocal tracks. Worked out pretty well. I think it was a few years before they admitted that, since the recorded at home story was so enticing. Then he goes on to say, years later, I was flipping through my niece's CD collection, pointing out the Avast albums in her collection. She had never noticed her last name in the credits, and thanks. Well, my name. Or that a few were from my studio. Cool uncle points, I guess. That's about all I got. Stuart. So yeah, I mean, pretty funny.
Cool uncle points.
Yeah, right? I mean, kind of that whole, again, he came out of his basement and came up to Seattle, and he really just put a finishing, bow on top of it. But yeah, I don't think it takes anything away from it. But, there definitely was some narrative, I think, in everything that we had read about it that, yeah, this is... He just did there to formalize it, not to redo the whole thing.
Yeah, I forget. I mean, it wasn't really clear in the research, and I forget if I had talked about it. But yeah, it was kind of hard to figure out how much was, and I guess that's why, how much was done in Oregon in their little basement recording, and how much was done up in Seattle. Because yeah, I think a few sources did try and say they just had finished or like mastered up here, but then he was also telling that story on the Life of the Record, where he was saying like when they were in Seattle, he would go and write Young Pilgrims out in the van like at night after they were done, and I'm like, well, why are you doing that if all you're doing is like mastering? So yeah, that never made sense, but now it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, for the semantic argument of it, like it sounds like most of it was written when they came up. It's just they found some new improved sounds they liked and did a little switcheroo. What's good for the goose, good for the gander, and we're left with the product we reviewed.
You got the money, like
totally.
Why not chill out in Soundgarden studio and
I mean, if you have to work with Soundgarden sound guy, you might as well make the best of it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, cool.
What have you been listening to this week?
Man, I've kind of been a little bit over the map here.
Yeah, kind of same.
We talked a little bit because of some of the stuff that comes up in this episode about Frank Zappa, and I'll let you speak to your experience on it, in a second, but kind of getting you introduced to some of those. I went on the ride as well, picking out some favorites for you and just kind of like some stuff that's maybe a little over the top funny and silly, but also like, wow, what a musician. So some Zappa for sure. And then, yeah, from that, really stimulated the idea of, hey, let's do, a pit stop on Frank Zappa. So lining up a few guests to be able to speak on that. We have some pretty cool stuff in the pipeline on that for sure. There's just an endless amount of stories to be told, and history, and complexity, and people that he worked with over the years that'll be fun to talk about. So looking forward to that. But yeah, I think also one thing kind of kicked into gear this week was watching a lot more like concert and documentaries. One that I put on and enjoyed immensely was Instrument by Fugazi. I already want to watch that one again, dude. I mean, I sent you a clip of Ian Mackay climbing through a basketball hoop, while he's hanging
Yeah,
upside
that was
down,
cool.
screaming in a song. Like it shows the band, live. It shows them, as they're developing their sound, as they're fine tuning and recording, and kind of does the heavy metal parking lot thing, a little bit of letting their fans speak and just kind of having fun with that, and a lot of little anecdotes in there that really shed some light on the band. Super cool. And then one that had just come out recently, I guess it's been kind of on the indie theater circuit a little bit, was If the Stars Had a Sound, which is a Mogwai documentary they just released in the last few months, but filmed during the making of their album As the Love Continues, which was basically a pandemic album for them. So
Hmm.
a lot of it starts off, they're all in the same room, they've all got masks on, they're all distancing, all the funny little, like, oh god, I remember those days.
Yeah.
A lifetime ago, and yet just 4 or 5 years ago. But also cool, a lot of shots of Glasgow, concert footage. The sound is incredible on it, so it's just kind of one of those ones. Just like if you're seeing them in person, like, crank that shit up.
Nice.
What about you?
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, we did a little bit of a baton handing back and forth type thing where I had basically required you to sit down and listen to Cross by Justice by talking about how good it was, and I got
Still
the
love
I
it.
got the pass handed. Yeah, I had the pass handed back to me to listen to Frank Zappa's "Shake Your Booty," which was obvious. I mean, who's gonna who's gonna say no? Um, it's dense. It's a double album, but like even with everything else that I was listening to this week, like I got through it at least like 2.5 times because it's so enjoyable.
Yeah,
And then and then on top of that, you can't get into the Frank Zappa universe without. I mean, it's another thing like Parliament P Funkadelic where there's like you said, there's just endless places to go to to find good music.
yeah,
So I started listening to some Mothers of Invention, a few other tracks. Um, his son stuff I listened to. But yeah, you're
yeah.
saying
I
like
mean,
there's
I've been
always
a huge fan for about 10, 12 years now, and I still feel like I don't have a grasp on a lot of the 80s stuff, and like the 60s stuff is kind of hit or miss. And that's like, how many live shows in the 70s can I jump in on? How many variations of this album? I mean, it's just,
yeah,
the gift keeps on giving. And now that he's
yeah.
passed and somebody else is in control of the vault, they just keep finding new stuff to put out. And it's like, okay,
Okay, so that's
keep it
what's
up, keep
happening.
it up. Yep.
Yeah. Like you're saying, like just the crazy stories and stuff surrounding them. Like I found out that the song "Smoke on the Water" is based on an incident where a fan fired a flare at the band while they were playing on like a floating river casino and burned the whole thing
Hmm.
down. Um, I also found out Van Dyke Parks, who is kind of a famous writing partner of Brian Wilson's, was in Mothers of Invention for about 1 month. And he said he was playing keyboards, and he does show up on a few recordings, but he said he left because he didn't like being yelled at.
Yeah, there's
Which
a
kind of
lot of
it kind
interesting
of tracks.
stories about that. Yeah, him and Frank and Captain Beefheart were both kind of like tyrants in the studio, and they almost, in like this unexpected way, formed this friendship. And there's a series of shows like in the 70s where they toured together and played on each other's songs and everything, where it's just like
Yeah,
both these guys are total like dictator control freaks and
yeah.
are like
There's kind of
perfectly.
a yeah, it's kind of an energy going on there.
Exactly. No, I mean, he was. the dude never did drugs, didn't drink. He smoked cigarettes, like, they're going out of style, but, he was very serious about his business and he
That's
expected everybody to be, as well.
that's really interesting because yeah, I think that would have unlocked a little bit of because yeah, there's something when you're listening to the music that you're like, there's something really different about this, and I think knowing that he's a sober person, like that that solves like that's a part of the puzzle to listening to it. That's like, oh, okay, like that's what's going on here.
Well, it's kind of
Like,
like, you can listen to some psychedelic stuff and you're like, okay, I know how you
yeah,
got to this point at this time. And then there's
yeah,
like, oh, you're just a generally like left brain creative ass dude and
yeah, yeah. There's that
you
going
don't
on,
need
but there's also
anything.
like a studiousness, and there's like you can like hear like I kept thinking of Steely Dan because those are two
Hmm.
things that you listen to, and you can like hear how hard it is to make this, and like how studious you have to be to like get this kind of a sound and like things going on. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we could keep going, but like I said, I think we're gonna pit stop this one
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, I would stop
Yeah,
at
we have
that. Stop.
a pretty cool book that's coming out in a few months. We're talking to, really covering some of the '80s stuff, as not just the music, but like the political activism he did, the freedom work he did that he was famous for. Working with Dee Snider and trying to take down Tipper Gore and her friends. So hell of a guy. Looking forward to that one.
Awesome. We do have a bit of business to take care of. So we've noticed uh, something that comes up multiple times per episode is we're asking each other, guests, listeners, enemy writers, ghosts we're seeing. We'll often ask each other, how familiar are you with this artist, or do you know these people? And every time we're like, I don't know, like how do I explain, like what do I say to like tell you? And you know what, we've decided no more
I have
explaining.
not
We
heard
are
of them.
officially
Yeah.
introducing the yeah, exactly. Like, oh, I've heard the name. There's so many things you could say, but here, look. All right, we're gonna simplify it for ourselves. We are officially introducing the Indy 500 podcast familiarity scale, the I5PS. I think I forgot a letter in there. I5PFS. So it's 1 through 5. 1 being I don't know who this is. 2 is I've heard of them. I know who they are. 3, I've heard some songs, maybe greatest hits, maybe an album. 4, I've listened to a few albums. I'm a fan, and 5 is I'm a big fan, and I've heard many of their albums. I'm very familiar. I can tell you about them. So let's give this a test drive.
We got a bit of a run
I'm gonna
here.
ask.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go. So Helio, here's some names. I've got 3. Give me your number and maybe a little blurb. All right. The
Yeah.
band. Oh, and I forgot to spell this correctly. It's supposed to be in all caps. Health, like
Ooh.
MF Doom, or
Yeah.
there you
Um, I couldn't tell you much about them, but I'd probably put it around a 2.5. I've heard them.
go. Okay.
We've talked a little bit about them and you've sent me some songs and I did enjoy it. I definitely couldn't like tell you the albums and even like honestly the names of the songs, but like it's
Yeah,
been
that
in
sounds
my
like
sphere.
that sounds like
Yeah.
a 2.5 approaching a 3. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, how about Agalok?
I'm gonna go 2. I know I've heard them, but it's usually like in the sense of I listen to some other death metal, and then when it like a death metal album is over and it starts coming up random death metal songs on Spotify, I know they're on the playlist. Again, like I
Okay.
couldn't tell you
Yeah.
what they do, but I know them and I know I've heard them.
Okay, I'd call that like a 1.5 to a 2. And how about
Yeah.
Toxic Holocaust?
Ooh. Solid 2 there. Again, heard
Okay.
them. I don't, of all the shows I've seen over the years, I don't think I've ever had a chance to see them, but it kind of seems like a band I would have run into, before,
Hmm.
but I haven't.
Yeah, I'll just say I highly recommend all 3. And if you've got to choose
Yeah.
one of those 3, go check out Toxic Holocaust because they're really fun.
Yeah, I feel like within the last year or two they toured with Guar, and it was kind of one of those like, oh, this could be a really
Yeah,
good show.
they're always touring, which is nice because we like going to see them, so we can see them like once a year if we really need to, and if we miss them, it's like not a big deal. Like, God bless them for doing that.
Right, they'll be back. All
All
right.
right, try
Well,
me.
yeah, you bet. Okay, first one here is Rat Dog.
Right, a rat dog is a 1. I don't know who that is.
If I was to say Bob Weir and Rat Dog, does that change anything?
Um, Bob Weir would be like a 2, but no, like it's not helping.
Okay, so basically, the guitarist of the Grateful Dead's side project, like live touring band, when he goes out and does his
Oh,
solo
okay.
tours and stuff like that,
Oh, okay.
where he's not
Yeah,
the Dead.
okay. Yeah, that's like a 1.5 because I think I may have heard that band name on the Grateful Dead documentary series.
Okay, totally. Yeah, it's like, again, half the show is Grateful Dead stuff, so it's kind of like, you're not doing too much different stuff. It's not like some progressive metal side project by Bob Weir or anything
maybe
weird.
maybe he just doesn't want to share the check.
Exactly. Okay, next one. If you know this one, like, I'm impressed at your memory because it was very short lived. Cardboard Vampires.
I thought it was a 3, and then I realized that the band I was thinking of was the Hollywood Vampires,
Mm-hmm.
the one with Johnny Depp.
That's what Depp. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
not this. That's not this, right? It's
Nope.
not. It's not Depp related.
No. So this one, I think maybe they did 8 or 10 shows, but it was just like a 80s 90s rock metal cover band with Jerry Cantrell, John Corabi, Billy Duffy, and Chris Wise. They did a lot of like late
Okay.
era Sabbath stuff. They did a few Alice in Chains things. I want to say I saw them at like the Phoenix Underground before it went away, and
Hmm.
that's about it. I mean, like, it was kind of in that period where like we're not going to tour on the Alice in Chains name. The Lane stuff still stings a little bit, but he wants to get out there and play music. So yeah, like they'd open up with "Hole in the Sky" by Black Sabbath, and rock your asses
Yeah.
off for 90
Maybe
minutes.
maybe I'd upgrade that to like a 1.25 because I feel like I had heard of the concept before.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't even know how I came up with that one when you posed this question to me. Like, talk about like pulling a random one out of my ass on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Last one, Return to Forever.
Is this a band that showed up on like the old like 90s soundtrack era where like mixing up bands and like rappers and
No.
no? All right, that's a
So,
1. Sorry.
like, okay. Yeah. I mean, I figured it would be. This is like, if there was such thing as a super group of jazz fusion, this is like the
Oh.
late 70s jazz. Right. Exactly. So,
Interesting.
if any of these names ring a bell, awesome. Chick Corea, Stanley
Hmm.
Clark, Al Di Meola, Frank Gambale. But yeah, I mean, for the moments that they had with other things like Weather Report with Jackal Pastorius, like, these were kind of the top of the pile of in late 70s type thing. So
Yeah.
again, to
Upgraded to
what you
1.1
said,
because I know who Chick Corea is.
and I've probably sent you some like Al Di Meola stuff over the years, so like you've probably either ignored it or heard it and didn't like commit it to memory. But
Yeah.
great guitarist, and all of those guys great musicians. But again, like, if you haven't dove in and watched their videos, or like, how the hell are you going to find that? It's not coming across the waves anytime soon.
All right. I'll check out Return to Forever after the show. I'll upgrade that one to a 2 to 3 after here.
It's kind of
But
one of those
just so we're
things
not
where
like
like,
wallowing in. I
right.
was gonna say just so
I
we're
mean, hey,
just so we're not wallowing in like 1s and 2s. Let's say like, okay, like the Who for both of us. Where's that number?
oh man. Let me look at the scale again, just so
That's a that's a 5.
I would say Yeah, if not a 5, a 4.5.
I think
I
there's
mean,
bigger fives, but it's a 5.
oh
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they're
I mean, like,
just to demonstrate.
would I put Zeppelin and Floyd at a full 5, and maybe by then that comparison to Who's a 4? Sure.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we'll have like we'll have like an additional scale on the end. It's like 5.1 to 5.5.
Yeah,
Where we're like,
yeah,
when you get to
exactly.
5.5, you're like, I could play these albums for you like myself on my guitar.
Right. Give me a pen. I'll write it all down for you.
Amen.
Nice. Well, that was fun. Definitely some new music to look up. I know that I don't. I'm gonna have to YouTube rabbit hole, see if there's any Cardboard Vampire footage out there.
That would be cool. I would want to see that.
Well, that was fun, but as per usual, this show ain't cheap, right? So we got to
No, I am.
do a little
Yeah,
word from one of
I'm
our
running on
sponsors here,
fumes.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Let's
I,
write that
I I
check.
sold some plasma last week, a microphone, but that's about all I can
Nice.
do, man. And now a word from one of our wonderful sponsors.
Listeners, how many times has this happened to you? You've made a name for yourself as a dictatorial, singular musical genius. Your label has aimed a fire hose full of money at you. You're in the studio recording your latest album. You know every note, every arrangement, every beat like the back of your hand. Yes, that's right, friend. You are so very close to delivering your masterpiece that will change rock and roll forever.
But what's this? Your drummer can't stay awake because he was up all night partying? Your bassist refuses to learn her parts because playing bass is easy as hell, and she can just show up and wing it. Your guitarist thinks this is some sort of group project where he gets to have creative input?
Oh no. Now you'll never become the voice of your generation.
There has to be a better way.
And out there is, Helio. Hi, folks. Billy Corgan here with a brand new service for the discerning band leader who refuses to put up with other people's shortcomings. Brent and Billy, where I, Billy Corgan, will personally come in and re-record the parts those lazy, shiftless bandmates are unable or unwilling to perform correctly. All you have to do is wait for them to turn their back and then dial our number, 1-800-RENT-A-BILLY.
Okay, drums, take 104. Oh, sorry, that's my phone. I'm just gonna go out for a smoke break for a second, dude. God damn it.
You've reached Rent-A-Billy. Within minutes of your call, a licensed and bonded Billy Corgan will be in your studio to lay it down the right way. Your way.
Oh, hey, dude, I'm back. Wow, is that my last take? Man, I was sounding pretty good.
You sure were. But wait, that's not all. Rent-A-Billy can also sub in for other professions like wrestling promoter, cat sitter, astrologer, and podcast host. Don't let your so-called partners stand in the way of your dream. Call Rent-A-Billy today. Back to you, Breddy and Helio.
Now it's time for the funk news.
We're about ready to rock steady.
All right, we're getting a little extra funky this week.
We had
What do
like
you
a
got
funky
for us?
version. Nice.
Yeah.
So in the news this week, one big thing that popped up was Paramount Plus has uploaded the entire archive or almost the entire archive at least, of episodes from MTV Unplugged, VH1 Storytellers, and Country Music Television's Crossroads. So if you, it's pretty easy to go online and just look up the news about this to get a full list of what they put up. I checked it out on the app, and one thing I put on for a while was the David Bowie storytellers.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one. I feel like that is the I feel like that's the version of Thursday's Child that like everybody has heard. Like,
Okay,
I
I
don't
think
know
I
why,
gotta watch
because
that
it
one.
shows up. Yeah, it shows up. It's like the second or third song in it, but for some reason I feel like maybe they played as a music video or something, but I feel like I've seen that like so many times. But
Oh, that could be.
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if
that's a
they
really
clipped them.
that's a
Yeah,
really good
for
one.
some of that stuff. Yeah, no,
Yep.
that's
Some
awesome.
other.
The Paul McCartney Unplugged was something I actually had never come across before, and saw that
Mhm.
today.
Well, some of them
Um,
have been like unaired forever or like didn't air. So
yeah, there's a lot of them in there where it's just like, we were what, 9 and 10 when that show was at its peak, I'd say, maybe even
mhm.
like 11, 12. So, we probably didn't get to catch them all other than the big ones like Nirvana and Alice in Chains. But yeah, there's a Pearl Jam one from like, post 10 era. There's an Oasis one on there.
I think I've seen, maybe it was from YouTube, but I think I've seen some of the Oasis. Some other stuff that was jumping out at me is Electric Light Orchestra VH1 Storytellers.
Ooh.
There is there's a Foo Fighter Storytellers, which I feel like I've seen parts of.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. What else did I threw on at least I threw on at least one other thing. Oh, I did watch some of the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers Storytellers, but I think I've seen some of that already too. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there that I'm gonna circle back to. I also wasn't aware of the country music television Crossroads show, which it looks like they basically like team up two different artists to like play together,
Oh,
which looks pretty cool.
it's
So
good.
they've got like John Mellencamp and Darius Rucker playing together. Cheap Trick and Jennifer Nettles. I don't know who Jennifer is, but I love Cheap Trick, so I'll check that out.
It's an interesting combination for sure.
Yeah, Sheryl Crow and Willie Nelson.
Oh, cool.
Sting and Vince Gill. And then in 2013, they put on one of those Willie Nelson and Friends shows where he just brings on like everybody, which includes Neil Young, Jack White, Sheryl Crow, Leon Russell, Ashley Monroe, Nora Jones, and Jamie Johnson. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess when you're Willie
More
Nelson,
hours and hours of
it
TV
becomes-
to, yeah, more hours and hours
Totally.
of TV to add to your list. Well, there's never, like I was just saying, there's never enough time in the week, right? So if we wanted to talk about all the news we wanted to talk about, we'd be here all night. So we've kind of created a mechanism to cover more than usual, which we call the speed news. So if you could cue me up the speed news. There we go. The Deftones are planning to release new music soon. Their singer Chino Marino has offered the update in a newly published interview that was actually concluded back in December. Marino told Billboard Espanol, the plan is obviously to have a record sometime around the tour. It's getting very close to being ready, so yeah, we are excited. Are you excited?
I don't know. Deftones kind of one of those bands where it all sounds the same to me, honestly.
Yeah, it's a little washed. All right. Ryujin mastermind Ryoji Shinomoto announces Children of Bodom tribute album and streams a new single, Lake Bodom. The Master Shredder's debut album will pay tribute to the Children of Bodom's late frontman Alexi Laiho on what would have been his 46th birthday, and you can currently stream his cover of the Bodom song Lake Bodom. I know I checked that out. Did you?
Yeah, he did great with it. And honestly, a group and a guitarist that deserve lots of love.
David Johansen, frontman of the New York Dolls, has died at age 75. David was the final surviving member of the pioneering New York band that had established the fundamentals of NYC punk and early indie rock. He also later performed as Buster Poindexter, a lounge singer's alter ego who scored a big hit with 1987's Hot Hot Hot. Do you remember Hot Hot Hot?
I do. I also remember him in the movie Scrooged. He was the ghost of Christmas Past.
Oh my god. Wow. And a big fuck you to noted hater and Indie 500 podcast guest Rick Gratzer. Billy Idol has announced his first new album in over a decade will be coming soon. He released a music video for the album's first single called Still Dancing, and he's quoted as saying, as the song says, there have been many moments along the way where I've been self-destructive, but what's seen me through is the unflinching belief in music that started all those years ago. That's the greatest gift of all. Go Billy.
Yeah, Rick, you feel that way.
Yeah. The Wu-Tang Clan have announced a farewell tour titled The Final Chamber, featuring all members. Wu-Tang Clan's founder RZA said of the tour name, Wu-Tang Clan has shown the world many chambers throughout our career. This tour is called The Final Chamber, and this is a special moment for me and all my Wu brothers to run around the globe together one more time and spread the Wu swag, music, and culture. All shows will be opened by Killer Mike and LP, their duo Run the Jewels. If only I could go to that.
I want to see that, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully they record it. The Mars Volta played their first show of 2025 this week at the Moda Center in Portland. They were actually the openers for the aforementioned Deftones. The Deftones dusted off 2 tracks they haven't played in a while, but the Mars Volta did them one better and played an entire new album that nobody even knew existed. It was an 18-track set list consisting of only new songs. Leaked product listings suggest the album is called Lucro Sucio Los Ojos del Vacío. Translated to English, it reads Dirty Prophets, The Eyes of the Void. And in related news, I'd like to walk into the goddamn ocean for not being able to make it to the Seattle stop of that tour.
I mean, the cool part, if you're a Deftones fan, chances are whatever they played would be new to you anyway, so, hope they enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. Can we actually get an edit point? Can we pause the music for a second? The speed news music. I am so sorry to do this. But can we put an edit point? I think we're at like 49 minutes. I have to take a piss. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, man. Of course. I mean, we're not.
All right. Yeah. So sorry.
What you gotta do.
Okay. 1 second. I'll be right back. All right.
All right. All right.
You've reached Rent-A-Billy.
Yeah. Hi. Can I get Billy for a music commentary podcast?
He was doing the speed news, right? Okay, give me the music. All 4 members of REM performed at a surprise reunion show in their hometown of Hampton, Georgia, as they joined Michael Shannon and Jason Darducci, who are themselves touring around playing REM album Berber, and a handful of other REM songs. The group joined Michael and Jason for the song Pre-Persuasion, and members floated in and out of the rest of the set. Helio, I can't remember, am I feuding with REM?
I'm pretty sure you told Michael Stipe he looked like a Q-tip, and you told Peter Buck to go buck himself.
The duo Mokhtar, the Nigerian guitar rock wizard of the Deep Desert, released a new album on Friday called Tears of Injustice. The album is an acoustic reimagining of his 2024 album, Funeral for Justice.
Oh. Okay, I'm back. Hey, Billy, get out of my seat.
Huey, I'll send you an invoice, all right?
Get the hell out of here.
Okay. Hey, call Rent-A-Billy, everyone. See ya.
Helio, did you Rent-A-Billy me? For speed news?
Oh, I wouldn't do that. It was a promotional offer. We kind of did a little ad read, and they gave us 15 minutes to use.
So you get to test the product. Okay.
Kind of infomercial-ish. We got to show it in action.
How did he do?
I mean, I'd be worried about your job on this one. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's as advertised.
Well, we do have another musical moment this week. Guest host from last week, Rick Quinn, reached out to us with a performance he wanted to share. So we'd like to play that for you all now.
Hi, Breddy and Helio. This is Rick Quinn calling with a quick update from last week's pod. You may recall the opening Soundcheck question was, what musical instrument from history would you like to have in your possession? And I answered, the piano that was used in the original performance of John Cage's seminal avant-garde composition 433. This is the piece where the player sits at the piano, opens the lid, and then sits for 4 minutes and 33 seconds and allows whatever sound is present in the given space to become the music, before closing the lid shut again. It was inspired by Buddhist philosophy, so you're supposed to hear the intimate beauty of the quote-unquote silent world around you. Well, anyway, a listener of the pod reached out to me afterwards and generously offered the piano to me. To say I was stunned would be an understatement. It was an incredibly generous gesture, and I thought, in kind, I would return the favor by performing 433 for the Indy 500 podcast audience, to share a meditative, contemplative 4 minutes and 33 seconds where we can all just take a moment from our busy, frantic, modern lives and truly listen, and maybe, just maybe, hear something real that otherwise we would have ignored or not heard. So, without any further ado, this is my rendition of John Cage's 433. I hope your listeners enjoy, and thanks again.
Are you going to play the song? What do you mean this is it? Oh, sorry.
I seriously can't believe he's going to put 4 minutes of silence on our podcast. This is insane.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just edit this out. No big deal. I mean, we can still talk right now. It's on a separate track. But I was telling you, I bought that different brand of refried beans today to have like the green chili in it. Oh man, so good. You're, you're not muted. You know?
That's part of the performance.
Oh, so did Pootie Tang cover this, or did John Cage cover this? Chicken or the egg moment here.
He's not going to be happy that we talked.
What? Yeah. Well, just come and get it then. Fine. Hang on.
This is Gilbert Gottfried, and I'd like to send my thanks to Renabilly.com. When John Stamos had a gerbil up his ass, I know just who to call.
Wow, that was absolutely incredible. What'd you think?
It was stirring.
Yeah. Did you
And
did you hear anything internal that you wouldn't have thought of before? Or?
well, I heard a high pitched sound and a low pitched sound. Just like they said, the high pitched sound definitely was my nervous system, as noted, and I believe the low sound, that was Bootsy, baby.
And you know what sound I heard? It's time to jump in to the multiverse.
What do you know about the multiverse?
The multiverse. Fizz had his theories. It was real and dangerous.
Well, he was right about both.
So very dangerous. To make it even more dangerous this week, we switched up our roles a little bit. So I will be your guide through the multiverse of list. Starting off, we are on number 213. Just a reminder, Funkadelic, One Nation Under a Groove. So, if we went to Spin Magazine's top 300 albums, and that was from 1985 to 2014, we were landed on New Order Brotherhood.
Okay, interesting.
Now, I kind of looked for some random lists to throw in there just to spice it up a little bit. Slam Magazine's 500 Greatest NBA Players, number 213, was former New York Knick Charles Oakley.
Okay.
And for our IMDb voters, top 500, well, how do you like Damn Apples, Breddy? It's Goodwill Hunting.
Wow, that's kind of low on the list, I would think.
Right? I mean, it's pretty good, though. You know, I mean, when you look at kind of all this stuff above it, I guess got to fit in there somewhere.
There's, I mean, yeah. Just like
now,
this
I'm curious.
list, there's a lot of albums, there's a lot of movies.
Totally. I'm curious to hear your sentiment on this one. This is IGN's top 500 games that they arrived from compiling all their scores over the years. Number 213 was one of my favorites, fucking Quake 3 Arena. The last online shooting game I enjoyed, pre Call of Duty and all that stuff. I just felt it was like fast, twitchy, but simple and cool weapons, and you get to know all the levels pretty quickly. You play that one very much?
Yeah, that was I played a lot of that. On the PC, on Dreamcast. It was one of the I feel like it was one of the first Dreamcast games that everybody got online for.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was a big deal that there was a Quake coming out that didn't have a single player. It was basically the very start of that era where games could just come out and be no, all this is the multiplayer. We're not doing a story. All we spent our time on was these levels and the experience of shooting each other online. And God bless them, it worked out really good.
I mean,
just hearing the title, I can still hear the sound effects and the announcer in that game and stuff like that. Iconic.
Cool. Yeah, cool graphics and art in that one, and that and I want to say Unreal Tournament and Tribes were the ones. Remember, we all kind of played a bit back in the day.
Yeah, that was kind of a transitional era from what came before and what was about to come next in Call of Duty and Halo and all that kind of stuff. That
totally. That was
I do
Counter-Strike and all those.
Yeah, I do kind of miss that feel of more arcadey online back and forth. And I want to say Quake 3 or something akin to that is having a re-release or something soon.
Ooh.
So I don't know. Keep an eye out. Yeah,
if that one's coming around, I know what I'm going to be playing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this is the one I saved for last because it's the best, and I can't believe it's number 213 on Rolling Stone. and that is Fiona Apple's 2012 album, The Idler Wheel.
Huh.
We've both heard what? No seconds of that? 4 seconds? All of it?
I can't say I have. I mean, I know her like new album was like a big deal because it turned out to be really good, and Pitchfork gave it like a 10.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't know that I've heard this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was kind of taken aback just because, like, for me personally, the only Fiona Apple I ever knew was like the late 90s Criminal, when that song was really popular in the music video and everything.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, not a surprise she's making music, but like, really? 213 out of a top 500? Okay, I might have to look this one up.
Yeah, I think it was a big deal because there's big jumps in between. There's an album in 2005, there's this in 2012, and then there's an 8-year gap to 2020 for the newest one, the Fetch the Bolt Cutters, that everybody says is really good. I have not listened to yet, so apologies to Fiona Apple. But
so she's kind of making it count, yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel as beholden to Pitchfork anymore. That like if an album gets a 10, like I'd run out the door and go listen. I think maybe like right after I saw that, I might have listened to some of it and was like, oh, it's pretty good. I'll listen to more later, and like just didn't. But
yeah.
As we discover, as we keep saying, whenever we bring up an album like this, like that's life. Like there's so many albums, so much music out there to listen to. Mm-hmm. And I listened to a lot of music this week, like.
And yeah, now we have more lining up at our doors to, to check out. I mean, that's why we're here. But at the same time, like, come on, man, when's enough? We need more hours in the day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe the newest one getting such a high rating and being such a big deal is not as shocking now that I know that Rolling Stone did this for this album that like I've never heard of. So I don't know, something to look into.
Yeah, no, it's interesting thing.
Hopefully we don't have listeners like yelling at their headphones or whatever. Like, you guys are so fucking stupid. Like,
if they do, email us and tell us why we're missing a great work of art, or comment on the Spotify.
We'll read it on air.
Yeah. Totally. We'll even put it in a celebrity voice if possible.
We're daring you. We'll have Billy Corgan read it. We'll call him in.
Exactly.
We've got rent to Billy credits here.
We do. Apparently. We do. Work exchange program. We add, they come work.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about September 22nd, 1978, the day that Funkadelic's One Nation Under a Groove dropped.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, we split up. We traded duties this week. So it's my job to give you kind of the general context of what was going on in September of 1978. 1978 more in general. Jimmy Carter is president. Global politically, we are like smack dab in the middle of the Cold War between the U.S. and the USSR. It's not a great year to be a famous serial killer. Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy get caught this year. And David Berkowitz, aka the son of Sam, is sentenced to 365 years in prison. But it's not a bad year to be Ted Kaczynski, because that is his first documented mail bomb attack occurred that year, and I don't believe they caught him for a good long time after that.
It's probably about 20 years, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Was it mid to late 90s? Yeah.
So more specifically, in September of 1978, some important happenings this month. The original Dawn of the Dead by George Romero premieres.
Ooh.
The Camp David Accords are held, brokering a peace between Israel and Egypt. The TV series Columbo, starring Peter Falk, has its final episode. Pope John Paul I is installed. Indy 500 related news. Mario Andretti wins his very first F1 championship.
Wow.
In this month, all 4 members of Kiss release solo albums. So they're doing like a speaker box Love Below type move there.
And those are all Those are 21,
Those are all
22, 23, and 24 on the enemy top
yeah.
500.
Yeah, we're gonna roll. Chances are we're gonna roll one at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Right?
Hopefully the
Yeah.
Peter Criss album.
Yeah. The Black Sabbath release, Never Say Die, is their last album before firing Ozzy and comes out this month.
Ooh, that's a good one.
People born this month. Actor Anthony Mackie, who is the current Captain America and former Falcon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe he is also a Best Picture winner from The Hurt Locker, or at least he's in
Was he really?
the Best Picture. I think he's he's in the movie. I don't know if he specifically won one for himself, but he's got a big
wow.
Wes Bentley, known for his role in Jamie in Yellowstone and Seneca Crane in The Hunger Games, as well as Ricky Fitz from American Beauty, was born. American Pro Football Hall of Fame safety Ed Reed, who won a Super Bowl with the 2012 Ravens.
That man was
also born.
That man was a killer.
That's a bad boy. Rapper Swizz Beatz was born. And current governor of Florida and noted piece of shit Ron DeSantis was also born.
Duly noted. Yeah.
Yep, there you go. Keith Moon died this month. And, we're obviously at some point in the show going to have more time to talk about Keith, so I'll just put a note down that he is possibly my favorite drummer of all time. I would say definitely top 3 and not number 3.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with that at all. I mean, apart from the drumming, dude was just a hell of a personality.
Yeah. The very top album in the UK this month is called Night Flight to Venus by a Euro-Caribbean band called Boney M. It also reached number 1 in Austria, Denmark, Germany, Norway, and Sweden. The big singles from the album were Rivers of Babylon and Brown Girl in the Ring. I listened to Rivers of Babylon, and it is a hell of a song. It also reached number 30 in the US, and it was their biggest hit stateside. It's kind of like a disco reggae tune. It's not bad.
All right. I mean, the disco part I could live without, but reggae, hey, yeah.
The top albums in the United States this month, there's 2 of them that hit number 1. The first was Don't Look Back by Boston. That is their second album, and includes the singles, the title track, A Man I'll Never Be, and Feelin' Satisfied. It eventually went on in 1996 to get certified platinum 7 times.
Did I ever tell you I was in a band with the lead singer's son?
Oh no, of Boston?
Yeah, so his dad was Brad Delp, and a guy I was going to school with, his name was John Delp, and this is in culinary school, and the whole time I had never put 2 and 2 together, and we used to jam all the time, and then one day, maybe a couple months after we'd stopped jamming and I hadn't seen him in a bit, a mutual friend that we knew, she's like, oh yeah, have you heard from John at all? I wonder how he's doing. Why? What happened? What do you mean what happened? Are you like into music and stuff? You didn't hear his dad died? Why would I hear his dad died? Well, his dad was the lead singer of Boston. It was kind of, like music news. Oh, shit. Okay. Put down the bong and, turn on the light bulb there, Helio. So yeah, it was just kind of one of those like,
I felt nice for him though, to have somebody who was like,
well, I wasn't
asking about it or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, hey, John, can we play More Than a Feeling tomorrow? That is that all right with you? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, never really crossed my mind to even think about it, but he had, friends with like bands like Secret Chiefs and Phantomus and Missingle and stuff like that. And he was a great musician himself. And if he's out there, hope he's doing well.
Awesome. One last note on Don't Look Back by Boston. It was one of the first albums ever released on compact disc format, which happened a few years later after it was released in 1983. The other album that hit number 1 this month in the US was the original soundtrack to the movie Grease, featuring John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. Title song written by Barry Gibb of the Bee Gees, performed by Frankie Valli, and lead guitar by Peter Frampton. So somebody was calling in favors for the soundtrack to the movie Grease.
Yeah.
It also has 5 songs performed by Sha Na Na, including the famous Hand Jive. Frankie Avalon appears on vocals in Beauty School Dropout. And a lot of the tracks on the album include bass by Mike Pecoro, best known later as the bassist for Toto, because him and his brothers Jeff and Steve were actually like legendary session musicians all during this time before they put together Toto.
Yeah, Steve Lukather is just like maybe one of the most underrated guitarists of the last 30, 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like shred, jazz, rock, whatever you need, he can lay it down and it sounds amazing.
Yeah, there's a certain area right there in the 70s where if you're a session guy living in LA, like your chops are impeccable. You were working like all the time for everybody, doing all kinds of styles. Like it's hard to top like those guys during that time for like people who are good at playing music. The number 1 film in the US for the entire month was Animal House. It grossed a total of 120 million, which is about 578 million in today's money. It was the highest grossing comedy film of all time until it was beat by Ghostbusters. International audiences weren't into it. They only made $9 million overseas. And adjusted for inflation, it's about the 68th highest grossing film in America. Roger Ebert actually gave the film 4 stars, and he wrote, "It's anarchic, messy, and filled with energy. It assaults us. Part of the movie's impact comes from its sheer level of manic energy. But the movie is better made and better acted than we might at first realize. It takes skill to create this sort of comic pitch, and the movie's filled with characters that are sketched a little more absorbingly than they had to be, and acted with perception." So, good on Roger there.
I made the same review about Freddy Got Fingered, but agree to disagree.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Okay. And that movie actually went into the United States Library of Congress's National Film Registry, as it was selected for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And I would say
awesome.
It's all 3.
Yeah, no, it's all-timer.
Yep. The number 1 film in the UK this month is the aforementioned Grease. Henry Winkler actually turned down the starring role as Danny Zuko for fear of being typecast as a greaser. And Carrie Fisher and Susan Day were considered for the role of Sandy before they went with Olivia Newton-John. So there's what could have been.
That'd be. Oh man, Henry Winkler and Princess Leia as Grease. Huh.
Yeah. So that's I don't know if it would have been as good. That's the world of 1978 in September. So now that you have kind of the picture there, take us to the album.
So the picture is definitely set, and one of those words in that picture that stands is disco. Kind of, I think rock is a little bit on the decline. You have a bit of arena rock stuff going on. Styx and Foreigner, those kind of bands, but the guys of the early 70s are starting to kind of fade away, like Zeppelin. Floyd's on the verge of breaking up, even though they're working on The Wall. So it's kind of a little bit of a title
they
shift.
Are changing.
Exactly. With that, you're also starting to see more soul, R&B, and funk. And what better place to get funk than from George Clinton? So kind of walking back a little bit, at the start we said there's all these different iterations, all these different names where it's Parliament, Funkadelic, P-Funk, the P-Funk All-Stars, etc. What are they? The idea where it started, in the 50s, George Clinton was working at a barbershop in Baltimore, where he grew up, and he had formed a teenage doo-wop group while working at the barbershop. And a lot of these guys did go on later to become members of like his Parliament-Funkadelic collective. But that barbershop group was called the Parliaments. So they had a start. The Parliaments, great. Eventually, he moved over to Detroit to be a staff writer for Motown Records. Just kind of contributing on songs, helping with
Damn.
instrumentation when he could. Kind of a cool way to meet a lot of people and really get into the scene. Um, a lot of his friends came out with him. They kind of kept doing the Parliaments thing. But, over a contract dispute, which was kind of sadly like a recurring theme with George Clinton over the years, he lost the rights to the name The Parliaments. So to get around it, when they were going to record their first album, they named the backing musicians that were with the Parliaments as Funkadelic. Now, all the singers from the Parliaments, the original doo-wop group, were listed as guests. So that way there wasn't any weird like
Nice.
contractual stuff. There wasn't, like, well, this is a Parliaments album. You guys are just trying to skirt around it. Nope. This is a Funkadelic album. These guys are all just singing, and they're guests.
Yeah, and like you said, even to this day, I mean, people may have noticed this album's not on Spotify because of rights issue stuff going on. So
right, exactly.
If you wanted to listen to this album with us, you had to, find it elsewhere. So
yeah, I mean, kind of shed a light on an album I hadn't heard too much other than like the one big song on there, the title track. But yeah, there's 4 albums missing on there just because of George kind of finding his way in court and battling over legal papers and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't know what it is, but a similar kind of prolific funky artist, Prince, for the longest time, was battling it out with the same people and the same streamers and kept his music off streaming. So
right, and
there's something to be in one of those guys.
These artists wanted control. They wanted to be
you wanted control,
fairly compensated. There's a lot of claims, kind of with those Warner Brothers era records, and this is not to sidetrack too much, but Zappa's one of his number one enemies was the suits at Warner Brothers as well. They were kind of out to screw musicians and just collect all the money. And we sent you the money. What are you talking about? Oh no, we didn't sell that many.
Nothing changes.
So a lot of guys were just trying to find loopholes to get out of their contracts, even though like, hey, Warner Brothers, that's got to be good, right? No, it was a total shit show. So circling back to kind of the origins, you have this band now, Funkadelic, that is kind of immersing itself in the 60s culture. Right off the bat, you start to hear heavy guitar, the real acid influenced lyrics and poetry. They really drew from a lot of things early on. It was Sly Stone, Jimi Hendrix, James Brown, and even the aforementioned Frank Zappa. Clinton had appreciated the idea that like you can have a little bit of fun while you're making music. It doesn't need to be all serious and love songs, but you can also like with that fun, you can incorporate some cool musicianship and like just really be creative. So why limit ourselves? And then
I was kind of surprised as I listened to this and I listened to some other stuff around the kind of George Clinton cinematic universe, how often they dip into truly romantic songs. Like you come for the funk, but I mean as you listen, the Funkadelic definitely has rock origins. Bootsy Collins writes like a mean love song now and then. It's interesting.
Why limit yourself? If you want to have fun on one song, do it. If you want to, do a little soul, do some soul. They're here to make music and to have a good time, not just to be what they're supposed to be. And that's actually a big theme of this album is just why try to fit in one box. Let music bring us together no matter what it is. You do you. So we have Funkadelic in one hand, this kind of psychedelic rock funk thing, and then Parliament kind of working congruently with a little bit of different members, but some crossover. But these guys are more soul, R&B, disco, funk, kind of music you can dance to. Parliament was the big leader on pop hits. They had over 40 hit singles. 3 number ones. You probably heard Flashlight, Aqua Boogie, and then the title track again, One Nation Under a Groove. from the Parliament-Funkadelic. So those are all number ones. Some famous members, you touched on Bootsy, one of the best bass players of all time, and just a personality to match it
It's
as well
Bootsy,
too.
baby.
Come on
I love
over,
saying
it's
that.
Bootsy, baby. Come on, Babas. Bernie Worrell, really just a savant keyboard, piano player, and musician.
Yeah, I
It's
know that's a
really kind of the
personal
forefront of like
touchstone for both of us.
synthesizers. Yeah. And he later went on to be in the Talking Heads, and he was in their movie Stop Making Sense. Just really, at that point, David was trying to bring in, musicians from various backgrounds to make the sound. And hey, who better than Bernie Worrell? A guy who can play, classical, funk, trip out on synthesizers, you name it. Also, I was lucky to see him a few times with the Colonel Claypool Bucket of Bernie Brains, which is Les Claypool, Buckethead, Bernie Worrell, and then Brain, the drummer from Primus. So, just each guy would cue up a song and 15-minute solos, and okay, here's all-time great Bernie Worrell, taking 10 minutes. Here's Les Claypool taking a few minutes. Here's Buckethead swinging nunchucks and dancing like a robot with a mask on his face. Like, why not? And then, yeah, he passed away a couple of years back, and towards the end, it was a little rough. A lot more legal disputes with George Clinton over, who paid who was stiffing who on money that they deserve from royalties, and kind of first forced Bernie to do some tours when his health was declining, and gave fans a chance to see him. But it was also kind of one of those, like, this guy should be at home resting, taking care of himself, spending time with his family, not out here having to hustle and get through gigs because he's getting ripped off. So kind of a sad end, but a great musician.
Yeah, if anybody, yeah, if you want to hear him, you can't go wrong with that Colonel Claypool supergroup. You mentioned their album Big Eyeball in the Sky. That's one of the few supergroup albums that I can remember where you listen to it and it doesn't turn into like a hodgepodge. Like they're all virtuosos, but they all fit together correctly, and they all know how to give space. So like, yeah, just that's the rare supergroup album that is like front to back, no skips, like really, really good.
Yeah, it's exactly, kind of a rare, almost greater than the sum of its parts. It isn't just the live shows definitely had a bit of jam and look at me feel, switch the spotlight, but yeah, the album itself is very cohesive and just kind of the quirky stuff you would expect from that group, but a lot of fun and really skillful.
Amen.
Last couple of members, to touch on, if you've heard at all Maggot Brain, which is one of Funkadelic's earlier records and kind of the track we paid tribute to at the beginning of this pod, you probably heard Eddie Hazel, guitarist. That track was inspired, basically, George and Eddie were hanging out in the studio one day, dropping acid, and George said to him, "Hey man, I'm going to lay down some bars for you. I want you to solo your heart out. I want you to imagine what it's going to feel like the day your mom passes away." And 9 minutes of him just kind of tripping and playing, that's what they got out of it. An all-time classic guitar solo there. Another one, you had been sending me a few songs from this week, Junie Morrison. He was actually a former Ohio Players keyboard player. Wrote that song, Roller Coaster of Love. Say what?
Oh, wow.
So he was on that. And then, yeah, had some pop hits later. And then kind of as Eddie Hazel found himself in legal problems, in and out of jail, and just kind of dealing with drugs, eventually he was replaced by a guy named Michael Hampton, who was a teenage guitar prodigy. Only 17 when he really joined the band. And One Nation Under a Groove was the first album that had no contributions from Eddie, and was finally Michael Hampton taking over as the full-time guitarist. This is a guy that, like, note for note during the live shows could play, the entirety of the Maggot Brain thing from start to finish and didn't miss a beat.
Yeah, you mentioned the stuff I was sending to you that was from Junie Morrison. I just wanted to tell everybody to immediately go check out his 1984 album called Evacuate Your Seats. That's one of those albums that I discovered and hit during the week where I started listening to it so much I was like, I need to shelf this and listen more to the album I'm supposed to be listening to, because it's really, really good. It sounds like I wrote down that it sounds like a P-Funk flavored like Thomas Dolby album. Like he sounds like, yeah, it's just super well made, really fun, really eclectic and like hyperactive. He loves a good like funny voice, just like Funkadelic and P-Funk do. Like
Exactly.
it's so good.
He
Highly
kind of
recommended.
he ran with the concept in a bit more of like a pop friendly direction, and no, it's super fun. I enjoyed having that one on when you sent it over.
Yep, that's definitely saved.
So kind of the last piece of the puzzle on the naming scheme is, what is Parliament-Funkadelic? What is the P-Funk All-Stars? Basically, mid-70s, George realizes, hey, both these groups are successful now. Both are getting hits. Why am I going to keep them separate? Let's just tour together. So now you have this big collective of musicians, the P-Funk All-Stars. They're able to play all of each other's material, combine the show, combine the songs, interweave them, and just kind of really do their thing. And that's where they start finding their form. So what I would recommend, if you have the opportunity, there's a DVD, Blu-ray, whatever you want to call it now, possibly on YouTube, show of theirs called The Mothership Connection. It was done in 1976 in Houston, a Halloween show, complete with, George Clinton coming in on a spaceship, and, everybody on stage in different outfits. Gary Scheider, one of the guitarists, is wearing a giant diaper. Just ridiculous. It doesn't have any of the One Nation Under a Groove material on it, but it does really just show them with a lot of their hits and just really at their finest dialed in. I mean, the stage show and the presence is just kind of, you can tell where George Clinton's, conductor, director, running the band stuff pays off. He's not necessarily like the greatest singer or anything on stage, but he commands it, and he just keeps the whole thing running, and the personalities they build up throughout it. It's just a lot of fun and a lot of energy. And yeah, I think I probably watched that one a dozen times over the years and never get sick of it.
Well, if you're truly a Indie 500 podcast super fan, you would have already listened to all the One Nation Under a Groove stuff many, many times this week. So,
right. It's true.
You're not going to be, if you're doing the homework we assigned you, you're not going to be missing anything by checking in with this DVD.
Exactly. No, I mean, it just kind of is the caramel sauce on top of the sundae, honestly, just seeing it all put together. And I guess, yeah, just if you're not looking for that one, but maybe a few songs to check out on Spotify or, wherever you listen to your tunes that are on this album. A couple that come to mind are Red Hot Mama, Cosmic Slop. Like I said, anything off that Maggot Brain album, start to finish, that one's incredible. Standing on the Verge of Getting It On. And then one of George's trippier, I want to say it's about 12 minutes of George doing some acid poetry called Good Thoughts, Bad Thoughts. These things aren't necessarily like on the charts because they're under that Funkadelic name, and psychedelic was a little bit out of style, mid 70s, but incredible music no less. So give it a listen. But yeah, onto the album. Like we said, kind of a tough one to track down. So in 2005, what had happened was, after a dispute, a judge ruled that the masters of 4 Funkadelic albums, Hardcore Jollies, One Nation Under Groove, Uncle Jam Wants You, and the Electric Spanking of War Babies, the masters all belong to George Clinton. So since then, he is not allowed for licensing of those albums to any digital services, but has gone on the record several times to say that he was planning remasters and reissues. But maybe it's a bit of a pragmatic thing to say. He's also 83. So we'll see if that actually ever happens, or if this is an instance, sometime down the line, he just kind of surrenders and takes the paycheck, or, his estate puts it out after he passes. But
Yeah,
if
I
you,
feel
if
like
you
for
come
a lot of
across
these
it,
people,
yeah,
it's the estate that,
yeah,
once their fight is over, a lot of people look at it and they're just like, people people should have the music and we'll take the pennies, for better or
exactly.
worse.
Yeah, what's the point? If there's opportunity, to bundle it as a deluxe, do it. And that's kind of what he's been getting at, is like, oh, I want to, include some demo versions. I want to include live stuff on these. But we haven't seen him yet. And the guy's still out there touring at 83. So, like, is he going to get around to it? I don't know. Um, but, if you come across it in a record shop, or, CD at the half price books type store, or even just looking it up on YouTube, it should be on there. Give it a listen.
Yeah.
Great music. There's a reason he was fighting for it, for sure.
Yeah, that's funny. I was gonna, if I could take like a real detour backwards here. I forgot when you mentioned the Fugazi documentary,
Mhm.
um, and also right now when you're talking about people, you think they're never going to get around to things. It reminded me of the Mars Volta documentary
Yeah.
that they had been, Omar had been talking about it and talking about it, and like since. I want to say since around the Amputecture album of
Yeah.
theirs, saying it
Yeah.
was not going to come
2008,
out.
2007 ish. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is finally out. But I wanted to I wanted to admit to a possible minor crime here on the podcast, because it was really funny when I saw that film had finally been finished and it found a distributor. The distributor was listed as like uh, some like small outfit in Germany.
Hmm.
So I think I think I was joking around with you just on chat, and I was like, what if I sent them an email and said, like, I'm a Pacific Northwest film festival and I'm looking for,
Hmm.
a preview or a copy to put into a festival. So I did that, and like, on one hand, I feel bad for duping somebody, but on the other hand, like, I had been waiting, like, on pins and needles for this goddamn documentary for like years and years and years. So I kind of was like, whatever, I deserve this one. But yeah,
And the one
I
thing
was
that I'll
always really
say,
bummed
yeah,
I couldn't get the link to work for you.
right. And that's what I was going to say, is like, it wasn't outright pirated. You got to watch it once, and then it was kind of like
Yeah,
removed. You got to screen it,
yeah.
which is awesome. I know you're a huge fan, so like, love that you got to do that. But yeah, it's not like you shared it with everybody and,
No,
sent around copies and
I didn't put it on the
that.
torrents or anything like that. No,
No,
I just watched it
exactly.
myself. So,
But now it's kind of
apologies to
funny.
the band, apologies to that German distributing
Right.
house for the ruse, but yeah,
But hey, now we
like
can
I said, a real detour.
yeah, we can claim amateur now, and play our cards and say we're a podcast and we need to screen this
Yeah,
for our
I mean,
fans to inform
if they
them.
ever really came after me, I could pull like a Nathan for you type you know correction where I have to actually establish my own film festival and get other movies to show at it and be like, well, see, I did not dupe
I
you.
mean, hey, I know a theater
Yeah,
nearby. If we need to do it, we can make it happen.
yeah.
We'll make it
Okay,
happen.
well,
All
keep it
right.
in mind.
So this album, One Nation Under a
If
Groove.
they come after us now, we will.
Yeah, we might. I mean, it sounds like a good excuse to throw a music movie film festival anyway. So no objections there. Um, so One Nation Under a Groove, the album did make it to number 1 on the Billboard R&B. Number 16 on the Billboard 200 was its highest ranking. Certified platinum. Um, kind of the mentality with this one was like, generally more pop-friendly hits had always gone to Parliament, but this time they kind of threw the Funkadelic brand a bone and really cashed in a little bit more on that kind of disco dance type thing. You still had the awesome musicianship. None of the tracks are shorter than, well, I should say most of the tracks are longer than 5 minutes. Um, so not necessarily like radio friendly, um, but enough to put on in a club and hey, let's dance to One Nation Under a Groove for a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
One thing, clipped a little interview here from George. He said, "We really wanted it to be a hit, so we really made it more commercial and more straightforward than I like to do it." he told Blues and Soul in 1978. The band were even singing, "Corny or not, here we come." It's corny, but it's clever, and the time is right for it. It's something we hadn't done since our Motown days. Sure, we could have done it all along, but people bag you, and you can't get out of the bag, and Funkadelic mustn't be bagged. At one time, we were going to do it much harsher, but it didn't suit the vibration of the song. We don't want people to think of us as being political, though we are political, but from a mental standpoint. Burn down the ghettos in your head and trespass in your own mind. That's what we were trying to say.
That's funny. It kind of makes me think, he's talking about doing that effort to become mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And, like we had on episode 2, we had Patty, she made an effort, and the band made an effort to become more mainstream. They took a song from The Boss, put it out and got a big hit. But at the same time, they had that thing inside themselves that they wanted to rebel and, go back to that episode. They did a certain something to rebel. But I think it's so funny because... Yeah, but I think it's so funny that Funkadelic and George Clinton are doing the same thing, where they're like, we did try and go a little mainstream with this, but his version of rebelling is putting a track on there that's called like Pro Mental Shit Backwash Psychosis and Squad, the Doo-Doo Chasers, and like talking about poop, and
again, it's another instance of like
being the fear of being eaten by a sandwich and stuff like that. Like that's his version of rebelling.
The conservative Christian mom goes to buy this album for her kid, and like looks at the back title, and just like Patti Smith's Easter album, she's like, "What the hell are we? Oh my God, you need Jesus, child! Dear Lord, no."
The very very first album I bought with like my own money was the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Oh wow, now I'm forgetting the title. You help me out here. It's got like it's red and black, and it's got the girl playing piano on the front.
It's not Blood Sugar Sex Magic?
Playing on it. No, it's got Arrow playing
One
on
Hot
it.
Minute.
Yeah, so that was the very first album I bought with like my own money, and I brought it home, and there's some track on there that has, kind of profuse swearing that my parents probably heard like rocking from my room, and they were like, nope, and made me take it back. And the album I got after I took it back was Weezer's Blue Album. So, that may have been like a multiverse sliding doors moment in my life.
No kidding. For some reason, I thought you were going to say you exchanged that and got like Atari Teenage Riot or something, just equally absurd and over the top.
Well, that was like the tape cassette era. Atari Teenage Riot was like right when I started getting like CDs of my own. But
that makes sense.
That was another kind of transgressive band of themselves too. So.
Oh, totally. So the name of the album, One Nation Under Groove, came to George as he and his friends were filming a video outside the UN building, showing their famous Mothership prop that I had mentioned on that Halloween concert video they have, landing with the UN flag in the backdrop. And one of his friends shouted out, "Hey, look, it's One Nation Under a Groove." George ran with it. His girlfriend was like, "That's kind of catchy. Why don't you do that?" Yeah. The album itself, meaning, this isn't a Laura Marling, Patti Smith Shins type thing where there's deep, soul searching meanings. The overarching concept of the song and the album is that, we should be freed of old notions and stereotypes and just really have the freedom to do our own thing. But with that, unite under the idea of music and dance are things that can bring us together to do regardless of, these skin deep differences. So again, just kind of that, you do you, let's have fun. And let's make music that's fun.
Yeah, among all the, interesting differences between this album and the albums we've done before, which is, about as much of a 180 as you can get so far. Funkadelic and George Clinton on this album, their weapon of choice for getting an idea to you is usually a short, sharp statement. It's not. It's not prose. It may not be. It may not. It's not. It's not. It doesn't have a big hidden meaning usually.
No Dylan-esque rhyming schemes or free verse. Yeah.
It's either something to make you laugh, or possibly something approaching a pun that probably has the word funk in it, you know. But yeah, I mean, I kind of love it. Like
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it can still say some things while still, you know, just being fun
yeah,
music. Like if you want to look for something
yeah,
deeper, you can find it. But at the end of the day, you don't have to either. You know, it's not going to bring you down. It's just fun music, and I guess every once in a while you got to say a little something because you got the microphone,
yeah,
right, George?
yeah.
Um,
And I wrote down, if we're going track by track
yeah,
now, I wrote down, you know, this is one of the crown jewels of the whole George Clinton universe, really. And it's one of, you know, and being among those crown jewels also means that it's just one of the greatest tracks of all time,
right.
because they're all giganto hits. I think this and Flashlight ought to be instantly recognizable to anyone of, you know, a certain pretty wide age
Yeah.
range. And, you know, if it's not, then I would venture to say that something was not going right in your childhood. Like,
And I would say too, like, yeah, tear the roof off the sucker. You know, it didn't chart as high, but it's again like how many anthemic songs has the man put out? Like,
yeah.
dude's just
Oh, and
awesome.
that reminds me, I don't know why, I think I might have said this to you, but I don't know why I didn't think until late in the week to text my dad, who I know, you know, he is right in the correct age range, right, to be a George Clinton super fan. I know he had records and stuff like that. So I did text him. I said, Dad, do you have any thoughts, opinions, memories about Parliament, Funkadelic, and or the album One Nation Under a Groove? Me and Helio are talking about it on our internet radio show this weekend. And he wrote back. Let me take a hold on. Let me take a deep breath here. Okay. He said, "That was a great album. Lots of good tracks. See you tomorrow." Dad.
Love it. Love it. You know,
All
he
right.
didn't he didn't
Right
he
to the
didn't
point.
pussyfoot around it, you know, exactly.
No.
Short, sweet, and to the point.
No, his podcast does not have any 2-hour episodes, I'll tell you that much.
No, not even. Definitely. Hey, I love it though. I love that he remembers it. I asked my dad about it and he was like, was it on the greatest hits? I don't
know. So track 2 for Groove Allegiance, I said, so if One Nation is kind of the sound of like a raucous backyard dance party, and it is like, that is the sound of somebody's
it's like James
like backyard
Brown.
party.
Exactly. James Brown playing a backyard party.
Yeah. If that's what One Nation is, like Groove Allegiance is like the kind of down tempo, like afternoon hangout, you know, people are not bumping into each other at this one.
No, I feel like that's the maybe you're still in the backyard, but maybe it's, you know, 2:00 in the morning and you're kind of lighting a J and you got this reggae funk vibe thing going on with Bootsy kind of keeping you awake with the bass riffing.
Yeah. There's parts of it that sound almost like tropical, which also add to the kind of relaxed feel. And then halfway through, so I had heard this album before. I definitely heard the title track a billion times, but this time listening through it, the thing that jumped out at me was how good the vocal performances are, like through the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, you come to Parliament and Funkadelic, and you're like, you know, Bootsy Collins is an insane bass player. Everybody they've ever had playing guitar for them is really great. But this time, like, I was noticing, especially people like Junie Morrison and Gary Scheider, they're putting down virtuoso vocal performances. Like they
really were.
They don't get called out as much, but there's like some layering of different, like, just great performances of like the do wow stuff in the middle of this one that, like, I really really love. And this is also on the album. This is like the gold standard of drumming on the album to me. Like,
yeah.
There's something about the speed and the groove of the song that lets it that lets him, whoever's playing drums, lets him change, you know, easily and be creative. And there's also a ton of space for fills that are
Yeah.
all amazing. Like
they're all so locked in. It's everybody can kind of shine, but at the same time still being a cohesive unit and not making it sound like over the top or like somebody's taking
and especially this one
turn
being
at
a
all.
little quieter, a little slower, like just the drummer especially has a chance to shine here.
Yeah, and you mentioned Junie Morrison again. Kind of one of the things, that I thought it was interesting reading about it. For as new as he was to the band, George really let him like co-pilot a lot of the writing on this one.
Yeah,
So it's
if you
kind
look
of
at
that
if you
idea
look at the
that
credits, he's on he's included on a ton of them. Like
he knew what the Ohio players were
Bootsy's
putting
name
out.
doesn't come up as Bootsy's name doesn't come up as a writer until you get like halfway through the track list.
Right. Yeah. So it's just kind of that different infusion of blood, and look what it wound up with.
Yeah, really interesting.
So the next one on there, really the immortal question, the question of the universe. Who says a funk band can't play rock?
Who's saying that to you, George?
I mean, it's kind of, we're not going to tell, but if you tell us, we'll take care of it for you. I don't know.
Absolutely.
So like, obviously the title track, the classic, I think this one's my favorite on the album.
Yeah. I think I've seen it noted in a few different places, but like, is the title of this track like ironic? Is it kind of a joke? Because like Funkadelic in this moment in their era, like you said, they're kind of purposefully changing themselves from a rock band into a more funky disco outfit, and it's like
it feels like a little bit of a response to the first two tracks in the sense of like, okay, we can play funk, we can play the pop hits, but we're still here.
It's almost
to
like they
shred
knew in advance. It's like they knew in advance that first track was going to be such a hit that people this is going to be like their introduction, and like 2 tracks later they're like,
keep listening to the record, we're capable of other stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, one of the things I love about it, it's very guitar driven. Michael Hampton is basically playing like the vocal melody when he's not solo. Otherwise, it's just one big long guitar solo that doesn't seem out of place.
Yeah. And like, it's kind of funny. Another thing I noticed was that after I had just talked about track 2 being the gold standard of drumming on this album, and like one of the more fun drum performances I think we're going to hear from the list. But if you listen to this track on track 3, it's so controlled, and it's so like, is that what are they saying? Like, that's what they think rock music is? They're like, look, we're gonna play rock music, and to you honkies, rock music means the drum is gonna go. And we know it's not a skill issue. Like, he's doing this on purpose. So like, I feel like it's almost like an in-joke or something. But I would love to find out if that's true.
Yeah, we lured you in with the radio hit, but now that you're here, we don't want to scare you away either. So let's, maybe we'll scare you away on the next track or even one down the line. But now, hey, we can do rock music. You like this, right?
Like,
white people like this.
Yeah, listen back sometime. There are like literally no drum flourishes on that track. Like, he hits the crash like on the on the one every once in a while.
No, I mean
it's crazy.
Straight fours, no swing, no fills, just like driving rock rhythm. And I mean, I'm as cracker as a Ritz, so I love it, of course. But like, no, it's a great song, and it really does, kind of provide some interesting ideas of like, what were they thinking, and like, the ordering of this album and how this all fits together. Is this, kind of just we have this fun line around, or is it, like you were saying, is it, well, hey, it's kind of a little wink to the audience, and us kind of laughing at everybody a little bit too.
I really wonder. I should have looked more into that, but Maybe that'll be next week's Unsolved Mysteries update.
There you go.
Breddy goes on the search to find out if who says a funk band can't play rock music was a bit of an in-joke.
Well, I would just warn you to be careful. If you dig too deep, you might end up with a little bit of like pro-mental backwash psychosis enema.
Oh yeah.
What'd you think of
they're
this
warning
one?
us.
They are warning us.
It's cool. Like, okay, so I wrote down that this is like the point on the album where the music, the music to me started reminding me of there was a time for video game soundtracks where it was before like people were buying them and before video games had like, you know, actual songs on their soundtracks and stuff like that. But before that, certain games like adventure games or RPGs would have areas where like they don't know exactly how long you're going to stay there. So the music isn't, you know, it's not like somebody performing a song.
Right.
It's somebody designing a loop that is, you know, short enough that they can loop it, but long enough that it's going to be interesting and catchy and good. And it's like that's a totally different skill from creating a minute 30 long punk song. And like
Totally.
It's so cool to hear a band do that. Like I don't know. I love the idea and like the approach, and also deciding that on top of on top of that kind of music, what you're going to use it for is like a call and response of George Clinton talking about a sandwich that's going to eat you, and music to clean your shit by.
And again, like, it's just this rock hard, like, cannot be bended, cannot be broken rhythm section. You have George talking about God knows what, you know, and then Michael Hampton the whole time is basically soloing over the whole thing. And yet somehow
the lead
it works.
guitar on this track in particular is like cooking, and it's cooking for like long stretches at a time too. Like, it's incredible. I love
the one note I put on here, and I might have to pull up the actual segment and send it to you later, but there's a part of it where it almost kind of reminded me of like Speak to Me, Breathe, like the Pink Floyd, you know, Off the Dark, where it's kind of, it has that the voices talking in the background and everything kind of layering in texturally, and then it's like, what the hell are these people saying? Yeah, but
I know. I would love to hear about like the recording for like the spoken word and vocal parts of this, because like if those people aren't really in the room as George is saying these things, like the way they designed it and put it back together, like it very genuinely feels like everybody is in the room listening to him say these things and like saying them back. Like, it's so cool.
No, I love it. I mean, great production on it, and I mean, we'll touch to the lyrics here in a second, but yeah, it's a fun one. I mean, probably the most intelligent song full of poop puns recorded ever. I mean, ever? I don't know.
I don't know if there's very many of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one, Into You, just kind of a slow soul funk groove. You know, builds into a bit of a sound collage with different vocals, layered guitar parts. You know, again, just really building a whole wall of sound there.
Yeah, it was funny. Before you know, the day that I kind of gave this track its real due, I had already, you know, been exploring and going around and listened to a Bootsy Collins album. And like if you do that and you listen to this, like it's immediately apparent that this was a Bootsy Collins song. And then if you pop over to the Wikipedia, like this is the one where his name pops up as a writer. But it's got so many of his signatures. Like he loves a good like almost like swooning romantic chorus.
I mean, like, for
there's still a wink to it. It's so it's lovely. I don't know, like
like
if anybody else is singing it like without the wink, yeah, if
Right.
anybody else was singing it without the wink on it, like you could probably have, it sounds like Sinatra, but
Right.
because he can't help himself, and because this is how he plays and who he is, like it's still
Right.
him. But man, you know, and of
No,
course
that's
he
a good
loves a
one.
funny voice, just like all the P-Funk people.
Again, like just have fun making music, whatever the message is. That's what this one's
Yeah.
all about, I think. The next one on here, Charlie, kind of just like the definition of like funk as I see it in the late 70s. I mean, this
Mhm.
one, I can't think of many other ways to explain it. It's just pure funk.
And it's another. I mean, they all kind of are, but it's another one that I noticed it's got kind of a loop and a groove to
Mhm.
it where like it just sounds like you just want to hang out like inside these songs. Like
Right, totally.
like
And it's
I would not complain if somebody was like playing it behind me all day, on a boombox and I was walking around like,
totally like if this was
it's just
on a house party for 3-4 hours, this album just going
yeah.
nonstop. Like,
Nobody's gonna go nobody's going gonna
yeah,
go and turn it off.
no, this isn't
So
Van
like all
Halen.
the
Okay, we've heard Ice Cream Man, turn it off.
Yeah, so I forget if it's from I think it's from the next one, but it might be from here. But I read that all the tracks from like here onward were like a bonus inclusion with the original album, and like
So yeah,
different.
Choli was the final track on the original release, and then
Okay.
when it had came out later, they added on the instrumental "Doo Doo Chasers" and
Uh-huh.
um,
And Maggot Brain is it a live track or is it like
yes,
overdub?
no, it's Michael Hampton playing Maggot Brain as opposed to an Eddie Hazel take on it. So again, like
Okay.
you can hear, hey, this Michael Hampton kid can really bring it. Which reminds me, his nickname, if you ever come across, is Kid Funkadelic. So,
Oh, of course.
of course.
Are they the ones who came up with the think it ain't illegal yet? Or I'm about to
Yep,
Google this. I should have Googled it.
I think so. But
Oh,
yeah, the name of that song, Lunch Meat Aphobia, think it ain't illegal yet. And I think when I was
that's
messaging
interesting because I
you
know like
when the first listen I had on this one, and it was kind of almost like a 70s like exploitation, theme, just really bringing it hard right at the beginning, and then it kind of turns into like
yeah,
this Blue Oyster Cult riff fest, and yeah, it was all over the place, but I loved it.
like what does it say here from the lyrics? It says instincts ain't illegal yet. A mind's a terrible thing to waste. Think it ain't illegal yet. And here comes the thought police. Look out. This is
Nice.
just the
He had some
his
things to
version of
say. Yeah.
it's not like, and I know I've heard other people have used that phrase, and it's one of those things like the like the what is it, like the tune in tune out, god damn
Tune
it.
in, drop out. Yeah.
Yeah, like turn on, tune in, drop out, the tune
Yeah.
at the Ilaria thing, like there's these have a nice day, there's like catchphrases that are being created in this time period that become like immortal. And I know I know I've heard Les Claypool live albums where he's doing jams where he yells that over it and stuff like that, and other
Hmm.
people it's just,
Well,
I
it
mean,
almost
but I
reminds
mean
me of
that's
like Seinfeld when George is doing the no, you can't give me it's you, it's me. It's not you, it's me. I invented it's not you, it's me.
yeah.
So I can just imagine
Or
George Clinton being, in a courtroom fighting yet again, like, no, I invented think it ain't illegal yet.
yeah, or Richard Lewis saying that he invented the phrase the X from hell.
Like
Or
from hell.
the whatever,
Exactly.
the
That
but
was Lewis.
yeah, but people were really doing it. Like they were like, these iconic phrases. Like somebody fucking came up with them in the 70s. Like somebody had to say it first. Like
Right. So if you want to spend a moment researching that, you're welcome to. I'm going to share the lyrics from Pro Mental Backwash Psychosis Enema with our listeners out there.
Yeah,
just because I think
just in case you haven't heard
they're
it,
quite
we want to donate some
yeah,
of George Clinton's, wise words to you.
they're they're quite profound. Here we go. The world is a toll-free toilet. Our mouths neurological assholes, and psychologically speaking, we're in a state of mental diarrhea, talking shit a mile a minute, or in a state of constipated notions, can't think of nothing but shit. And in this world of stinking futures, shitty memories, constipated now-nows emerges from the hiney of your head, the doo-doo
The
chasers,
Heine.
the pro-mental shit backwash psychosis enema squad, the prune juice of the mind, the doo-doo chasers, friends of Roto Rooter, bringing you music to get your shit together by, the band in the tidy bowl of your brain.
The band in the tidy bowl of your brain. Like,
I do love that line, the music to get your shit together by.
yeah.
That's a good one.
Like, even on its own, like, it's pretty cool, but like knowing that it's in the middle of all these different like poop metaphors, like, it
Right,
gives it
like
something else.
again,
No,
it's probably the most thoughtful song about poop and poop jokes, that
yeah,
graced my ears, at least. I'm sure there's probably an Adam
yeah,
Sandler record out there with worse, but yeah.
yeah. And I guess now after all that, I think it's probably a good time to talk about something that I wanted to bring up. But
Yeah.
so the idea of like being funny or having lightness, this kind of like laugh type stuff in your music, right? Like there's something a little different about bands that can do that.
Yeah. And well.
Yeah. So I guess my kind of theory here was, do you think wanting to be funny affects a performance in some way? And does it affect how the audience takes you?
Yeah, I think with acts like that, sometimes it might take a little longer to build that trust with the audience, because I
Hmm.
don't think it's a common thing so much. And you're almost kind of getting to learn each other's sense of humors. Whereas, like, you
Yeah.
can show up and listen to a rock show and, oh, he's singing about a relationship. I get that. Oh, he's singing about,
Yeah.
a breakup or whatever. And there's kind of just these ideas that are, yeah, that's rock and roll. Okay, we know it. Oh, wow, this guy's singing, about, shedding labels, but he's singing it about, through the prism of poop jokes. Okay. Uh, Frank Zappa is offering a commentary about toxic masculinity in the 70s, and, in a song like Bobby Brown. Okay,
Yeah.
wait, I gotta listen to this again. Where's this
Yeah.
guy
When you
coming from?
wait, exactly. I was gonna say, like, the first time you listen to Bobby Brown Goes Down, you're like, what the fuck is going on here? But then,
Hmm.
once you know a little more about Frank and you listen to it, like, yeah, this is he's going over the top, and he's condemning, a certain kind of person, and like a certain kind of
Right.
attitude in America. Like, but
Exactly. Just
yeah, I was going to say something I notice more and more as time goes on, and I feel like I may have taken a stab at it, one time earlier in the podcast. I think I might have been talking about um, Black Dahlia Murder's song that's like based on Castlevania, but
mhm.
like I feel like performances that include a little comedy or a little lightness kind of in the recipe, I think they're actually more likely or more amenable to inspire like a good performance. Like I think there's you know there's some kind of there's like a mental stack where, you know singing about a serious subject and playing the music, singing, when you take away one of those blocks, which is singing about something serious or having it be, you know, something very personal. When you take that away and you replace it by something like, well, the subject of this song is an NES game.
Right.
It's you're taking something off of your mental stack and you're able to dedicate it to other things, right? Like I think there's something to that.
Yeah. No,
Like
I agree.
I'm always shocked at how musically advanced Ween is all the
Yeah.
time. All the time.
That's a great example.
There's a song called Your Party by them, which is, as usual, the lyrics are silly. It's about a guy, it's real. I'm trying to think of what the style is. I don't know. Go throw it on and you'll hear it. But,
Yeah.
The lyrics are just like a guy like dreaming of like how great somebody's like dinner party was and like how he wants to do a dinner party thing. Like it's nothing deep.
Right.
But like the musicality in that and like how catchy it is and like how good it sounds is it's just something beyond. And I'm like,
right. Well, and I think, to go with the classic Spinal Tap line, there's a thin line between clever and stupid.
That's another part
I look back to something like, Blink-182, where it's just like, okay, wow, it's pretty juvenile. Yeah, granted, now I listen to Blink and I kind of like nostalgically like some of those songs. But
it's almost like
it's
doubling
not
down on a bet.
Right.
Like
exactly.
If you fail, it's not going to go anywhere with me. But if I accept it, you have license to not not bury your soul in a lyric for me. Like I'm still here. I'm going to listen to the music.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No, I think, one thing too that comes to mind when we talk about this is the idea that like, just like any form of art, like I think with music, it should reflect a variety of emotions. Whether that's fear and scary music, whether that's sadness, whether you're an orphan girl, whether you're, walking with your brother and sister to church and telling them about the way to heaven is not through the church. There's all these opportunities for these things, but at the same time, part of life is just having a laugh too. And there's funny things that happen in life, and there's some things that we can get ourselves invested into that we just don't need to take so seriously. So if it's a little break from that, it's great.
Yeah, and not only are there funny things in life and humor in life, but there's certain people, and I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say that both me and you are these kinds of people, but there's certain people who have a harder time doing anything creative, not just music, or even sometimes beyond being creative, just living life. Like there's people who have a hard time of doing that without being funny or at least having fun. And like I think I was talking about with you before. Like I don't think either of us would survive making a podcast if it wasn't like at least half comedy and bits and stuff. That we're laughing, that we can laugh about. Like, and I'm sure there's people who like George Clinton and like Weird Al who, would they have the willpower to make the same great music if they weren't laughing and they weren't having fun? Like I don't think they could. I don't think I could.
Like, I mean, exactly. With a collective like George Clinton's, they'd probably find some success in some ways, but like, would it be as revered as it is? I don't think so. I mean, a lot of these songs are just catchy, fun, and silly. I mean, Atomic Dog.
Yeah.
Come on, nothing profound there.
No,
it's not.
Yeah.
I say that, but it's probably some deeper meaning that he had for a Cold War metaphor. But
yeah, we're gonna feel bad now. George
exactly
will email us and say like, Atomic Dog happened to me.
I hope so. Yeah. No, my dog fell radioactive vat of waste, and how dare you belittle him? That was my attempt to mourn and pay tribute to my dog.
Yeah. Indeed.
Well, as we wrap up a little bit on this album, any thoughts, before you listen to this album, preconceptions? What did you know about it, if
Um,
anything?
I mean, you can kind of hear my preconception on the end of the last episode when Rick read off what we were going to get to do this week. Like, I know we don't post video of it, but like I'm pretty sure you had two hands up in the air,
I was stoked.
and
Yeah.
big old eyeballs, like yes, and that was
Yeah.
that was me too. I think I said something like, really, like,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
nothing against Laura Marling and Jillian Welch, Patti Smith, and the Shins, but it's Parliament. Like,
Right. And I mean, for me, it
I'm
was,
happy to learn about new stuff, but I'm also happy
yeah,
to hang out with George Clinton and Bootsy and meet some new people like Junie Morrison. And yeah,
it's a loved with that, material that I wasn't as familiar with, thank you very much, Spotify and George Clinton. So yeah, it was like the
Mhm.
perfect blend for me of like, yes, let's do this. But I'm also not
Yeah,
like, phoning it in.
yeah, and it is, it's just it's a great album. Like, it had been around in my life. I don't know if I could tell you, past One Nation, like what each, if you played it for me previously, I might not be able to tell you like, oh, that's on this, but yeah, like
Yeah,
it's been around, it's been in the air. I'm sure it's in my dad's record collection. There's never a bad time to put it on.
totally. Yeah, I mean, the one thing coming into this, looking at the track listing that I knew was like Maggot Brain. And I could even
Yeah.
tell you that like before this week, like I knew the line of like One Nation Under a Groove, but I couldn't describe
Mm.
the song to you. Um,
Mm.
so this is, I think, one of the questions we
Well,
always
I
talk
mean,
about. Like, are you going to listen to it again? Like, man, yeah. Every time I listen to this
yeah,
one, it gets better and better.
yeah, of course. Well, it's also kind of the nature of the songs. Like I was talking about, they're hangout songs, and there's not as many. When they have a hook, they have massive hooks, Flashlight,
Hmm.
Aqua Boogie. But when you make plus 5+ minute music that's jammy and is hangout songs, your trade-off is that people aren't going to remember exactly which one is on which album and stuff like that. So,
Right.
but if you know it, it's good, and you're going to be able to put on a Funkadelic album and you're going to have a good time. Like,
Oh yeah. I mean, like of all the things, if I had the time and the people, like to pull off a cover band at this point in my life, this
wouldn't that be
material is
fun?
like one that I would kill to do. Just the run of like Funkadelic albums and songs, and
Well,
I mean,
count
sure, a
me
little
in.
Parliament would be fun, but yeah,
Yeah, if
just having
if
somebody up
somebody we
there
know
spout
needs
George
something for
Clintonisms.
like if somebody we know needs like a house party band to play some groove like all night, like we'll do it.
We'll karaoke
Pay,
some backing tracks and
yeah,
throw on the effects, and
pay us some tacos.
yeah, give us, or we take gift cards to Rent-A-Billy too. Always good.
Yep. Yeah, you never know when you need a Rent-A-Billy.
Oh, exactly. So, any favorite moments? I mean, above all,
I kind of mentioned it before, but just the vocal performances all throughout. Um, it kind of stinks that I'm not deft enough to tell you exactly who's who each time. Like I started being able to recognize Junie a little better,
yeah,
but it also doesn't matter because every single time that they really put their back into singing something, it sounds incredible on this album. It's just amazing.
yeah, it really reminds you of
One
the
of the
fact
what
that
and
yeah, these guys were a doo-wop group, 20 years prior.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the other I want to say one of the other guitar players, I think it was Gary Scheider, or is
Hmm.
he? Yeah, one of the guitarists, Gary Scheider. I wrote down. I can't remember where I found it, but his kind of origin story was that he would get his haircut at the barbershop that Parliament was doing the doo-wop singing at, and by the time he was 16, he kind of moved out of the Plainfield area along with
Mm.
a friend of his, Cordell Mawson, and they moved to Canada.
Mm.
And then And then George Clinton, years later, was living in Toronto at the time and began hearing about different bands that Gary Scheider was in. And then he looked him up and he's like, wait a second, that's the kid from
Oh,
that's
that's
the kid from
awesome.
our barbershop here
Yeah.
in Canada. And that's kind of how he got roped back into playing along with the George Clinton universe. Like, I thought that was such a cool story.
Yeah, no, I for all the guys he's had over the years, there's still like those guys from the old neighborhood where it's like, yeah, we can do this with anybody, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And I will own to a mistake here. I think earlier in the history talking about them, I said this was in Baltimore, but you corrected me. It was actually in Jersey, where this barbershop was, and yeah, so just gonna own that one. So hold off the pitchforks and the angry
yeah,
reviews.
please. You can close your angry email and Yelp review.
Exactly.
You can put our Spotify rating back up to 4.5.
Exactly. That's don't go too high. Don't go all the way to 5. But
no, we know we've got work to do.
Yeah. So I made you a little playlist of other Funkadelic stuff. Does this kind of get you thinking this is going to be incorporated more into your listening going forward, and you're really just kind of exploring it? Or
yeah, and like
mood music maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Like Rick said last week, like there's a test for some music where you put it on in the car. Like today, not wholly unrelated, but I had a long drive, and I don't want to be fucking around with my phone while I'm on the highway and stuff like that. So I want to find like a playlist or something that I can throw on and not touch. And today it was the kind of all-encompassing Spotify playlist for Prince. Right? I know that I'm going to be able to hit the highway for like 2-3 hours, and I'm not going to need to touch that one.
Yeah.
maybe I skip like one thing I don't like because I know that 90% chance the next track is going to be a banger, but
or you've heard Little Red Corvette 80 times in the last week. Why do you want to listen to it again?
Yeah. But this, anything, I could do the same thing with the Parliament-Funkadelic, P-Funk All-Stars, Bootsy Collins, George Clinton. I can do that same thing with the all-encompassing playlist that I'm sure is out there of theirs, and put it on and chuck my phone to the back of the car.
Yeah.
Probably not really, but I could, and I could just be totally fine for hours upon hours. So yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it's always going to be something different, and keeps it interesting and good music.
Amen.
So
I don't think I've
to do a little bit of yeah, no. The last question really is, the ranking about it. So 213 out of 500. Is it properly ranked? Yes. I'll just leave it.
Yeah, I'll say.
How do you feel
I'll say
about
yes, or you could bump it higher, and I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
It contains a legendary track. It contains a bunch of other tracks that stand next to it. Like, yeah, I forget what we saw was around it. I think like Air's Moon Safari was somewhere near. Like, yeah, go ahead and leapfrog that. I'm not gonna worry about it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's fun. It's musically like virtuoso playing and singing. It's goofy lyrics. It's George Clinton at his best. Like, what's not to like? So maybe a foregone conclusion, but something we're kind of trying to do now that we're getting a little bit of a pile building up here. Where do you rank it amongst albums we've reviewed so far? Is this your number one?
Yeah. So our kind of nascent power rankings, like we haven't really got 10 albums yet, but I mean, I think it's pretty easy to say that. I mean, even within the NME ranking, this is number one among everything we've had, and yeah, to me, it's number one on the power rankings of albums we've done on episodes so far.
Yeah, hands down for me, and kind of going to be curious to see where this falls ultimately, because it's really the only Funkadelic album. So for me, like, I might push it closer to the top.
Yeah,
Kind
it
of in
kind
that,
of
like,
it
if
kind
I
of
only have
represents a
50
lot.
votes. Exactly. It speaks for Maggot Brain. It speaks for all the other stuff going on that I just absolutely adore that isn't recognized on here. So
Mhm.
it might end up, closer to the top than it needs to, but it's a damn good one.
Yeah. Do you need a bathroom break?
I do. I'm kind of hungry. You wait. That
Oh,
came out wrong. Oh God.
no. So,
Okay. Look. I mean,
do you want to meet me in the bathroom?
I'll meet you in the bathroom.
Okay, let's meet in the bathroom. That is, of course, MEAT. Meet me in the bathroom. For listeners that aren't aware yet, or anybody who's new, our host here, Helio, in another life, is a true blue top chef. He has fed some names that I know he probably doesn't want to drop on the podcast, but that I know of that kind of would blow your mind.
I had
but
some
here on the
fun
show,
conversations, and I can make
here
dinosaur
on the
chicken
show,
nuggets with the best of them.
But so here on the show, we've asked him to come up with a recipe that would pair well with the album of the week, and we call that segment Meet, MEAT, Meet Me in the Bathroom. So take it away and let me know what's on the menu today.
Yeah. So this week, we let the funk really drive the menu on this one, and for me, nothing comes up funkier than like Korean food, because they love to do fermented, spicy, all these wild flavors. So I went with a funkified, crispy fried, fermented, and we meant it, kimchi grilled cheese. So we're going to do that on sourdough bread, a little bit of mozzarella, a little bit of brie, and then some kimchi in there to kind of give it that funk, that sour, that, just different flavor you can get. And then, what's the grilled cheese without tomato soup? So let's do some caramelized bang bang gochujang tomato soup. And if you haven't had gochujang before, it's like a fermented Korean chili paste. You add that and some honey on like some chicken wings or chicken strips. It is unreal, man. Like one of the best things I've ever had. So just doing that with a little tomato soup. You got your sandwich. You got your dip. You're gonna put a little glide in your stride and a dip in your hip with the funkified, crispy fried, fermented, and we meant it kimchi grilled cheese on sourdough with a caramelized bang bang gochujang tomato soup. That is your rainy day funk injection.
Now, that's a sandwich I would not fear being eaten by. That sounds lovely.
I might have to make one tonight after we get done with this.
Yeah, I mean, no offense to the other episodes, but like this is the one where I'm like, nobody else is around and I'm coming home.
Yeah.
Like, I might just do this for myself. Like that sounds really good.
The only challenging thing is
grilled cheese to somebody.
The only challenging thing, and you have the recipe on there, is like I'm not allowed to keep kimchi in the fridge for more than a day just because it stinks it up so bad. So it's kind of like use it or lose it for me, but might have to lose it just to use it.
Well, we've come to that time again. The time to spin, not spin the magazine, but we're here to spin the wheel and find out what album we've got next week. I can't believe it. I can never. Every single time it's come up. It's happened 5 times. Every single time I'm like, I can't believe it.
We've gotten to the near end. What kind of music would you like for this?
Oh,
would you like some funky speed news?
Yeah, give me the.
Or do you want just here? How about we just do the Chemical Brothers' Lovely Little Riff?
Oh yeah, okay. I do love that riff. It's from Walk, Rock, and Beats.
Oh.
So remember, with this number generator, you have to press like start, and then it'll spin, and then you hit stop.
Yes.
All right. If you want to give me the number, I can look it up. Otherwise, I'm happy to sit here and be shocked once you say it.
Oh, am I looking it up?
Oh, I thought. Oh, okay. I put in
I
the
don't
chat
have the
that,
generator.
I thought it was your turn. All right, I'll do
Oh,
it. My bad.
I didn't see that. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Sorry, folks.
Okay, hold on. Do you want me to do it? I'll do it.
Yeah, go for it. You and Rick always come
All
up
right,
with
here
good
we go.
stuff.
Okay, I'm hitting start. The numbers are rolling around. I'm looking in the air and closing my eyes, and I'm about to hit stop. And it always feels super scary, but here we go. I'm hitting stop. Oh, wow. Okay, I hit number 163. So I'm now going into, yeah, that's high. That is a high.
Really moving up.
I was excited that we had hit 213. And now we're at something. Okay. Scrolling through the list because I don't have
Fiona Apple's 2012 album. I'm gonna
we're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting. A band called New, N-E-W. The album is called New 75. Let's look them up real quick here.
Yeah, I can't say that
New
rings a bell.
75 is the third studio album by German krautrock band New, released in February 1975 on Brain Records. Interesting. So a German krautrock band. We are really getting
How do you
into
spell the
some
band name again?
N-E-W with a exclamation point. And the album is called N-E-W exclamation point 75. The genre is listed krautrock, experimental rock, psychedelic rock, and proto-punk.
If my Google's broken, because I got like new 75-inch TV. Yeah, there's a
you might want to look into that one.
QNED model. Oh, there we go.
Well, I'll
Groenland Records. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me read off some of the albums that are surrounding it. All right.
Yeah.
So let's. Okay, so let's go to 170 and read up from there. Okay, so once again, this is 163. All right. Number 170 is Hey, you might want to get Billy back here. It's Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream. I hear they utilize Rentability extensively on that album. Number 169, it's the Dexies, Midnight Runners, Don't Stand Me Down.
Ooh.
Number 168 is Dummy by Portishead, a really, really good album. Number 167, Aretha Franklin, Lady Soul. Number 166 is Pulps. This is hardcore.
Nice.
Rick wrote a note on that one saying, "This is my favorite Pulp album," and I wrote a note on it saying, "Same." Number 165 is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Let Love In. Rick wrote a note saying, "Kind of wild, this is the highest ranked Nick Cave." Number 64, just behind our album that we just picked, is Johnny Cash at Folsom Prism.
That's a good one.
Just ahead of the album that we just spun is the Boxer by The National. Rick wrote a note, "You should just do all the National records in one episode. This is their best."
Yeah,
I still
see if we
like
can get Laura
cheating,
Snapes on that one.
I mean, we'll see how I. Okay, if she guesses, we'll do all of them. But
yeah, I think
yeah. At this point, I still feel like it's cheating. But if it comes up and we get Dexies or we get the National, we'll talk about it. And then I'll end on this one finally at 161. It's Arcade Fire's "The Suburbs," the one they won. That's the one they won the Grammy for Album of the Year for. Yeah,
that's a good one too.
On that note, go find the Soul Wax remix of Sprawl Part 2, which is really good.
Not on that note at all. New formed in 1971 in Dusseldorf, shortly after the drummer and guitarist parted ways with Kraftwerk. So that's where we're heading next week.
It's okay, interesting. So it's like a
offshoot
Kraftwerk offshoot.
Yeah,
interesting. All right.
So we're getting it. I mean, other than David Hasselhoff, this is going to be my first foray into krautrock for sure.
Into German. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Really?
Germans do love.
I think pretty much for me too. I have listened to some Kraftwerk, but
yeah, I've had it on to say I heard it, but more of a joke from looking for an Autobahn album.
I do love and I have to. No, I don't think he's German. I'm not going to say it. Never.
You like
mind.
Rammstein, right?
Yeah. Does that count as krautrock? I mean, they are krauts and they do
I
rock,
mean,
but I don't know if it
in the
counts as
sense of
krautrock.
German, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not
yeah,
definitely
Rammstein
that sound.
Rammstein's very good. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sad they probably won't come up on the list. So as we
but hey, that's
fade out
what
here,
the
are there
pit
any
stops are for.
shout outs? Are there any shout outs, plugs, dedications we want to make? I see one down here that I wanted to grab. Shout out he may be the only one still listening, or he may not be, but if anybody is listening, it's gonna be him. Shout out to Bear Jones for sending us the show's actual theme song that you hear when we're not, fucking around and trying to make our own. Like the one you hear that's actually good. that's our fan Bear Jones, who
and I specifically
gives
flattered this week to be the part of the subject of the theme song, referring to the time that I was to smoke. I believe it's called cannabis with one George Clinton outside of the showbox in my 20s. So. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Did you put that? Did you tag that on the end of the episode because it's like a statute of limitations thing? I think you're fine.
Yeah, I mean it's legal now, right? Yeah.
Well, it ain't illegal yet.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Well, good callback. Yeah, and as
that's
always,
the one that was written down that I wanted to grab.
Nice, of course. I mean, yeah, he's awesome, and it's kind of a little midweek treat always when we get those themes over. Want to thank Rick Quinn, of course, for his amazing contributions. His playing on 433 this week was exemplary.
Oh yeah,
one of the best versions of that song I've heard, honestly. Most importantly, we couldn't have done this episode without him, and that's Billy Corgan, for being able to help us bear the weight of genius and deliver our vision to you, the public listening audience. But in the meantime, check us out on Substack, where we'll have our recipes for Meet Me in the Bathroom, on Instagram, where we're kind of trying to build a little presence, post what we're working on, and maybe a few little odds and ends, as well as TikTok, where, you might get to see our mugs debating or, funny little videos we come up with we think are worth sharing. Anything else to add?
Stay out of my chair, Billy.
Yeah, he kept it warm for you. And I'll signing off.
If he did a good job, I'll let him back. But yeah, that stung.
Well, let me save you the suspense. Signing off. This is Helio, Novell, and for the last time, Breddy Tidgewater.
Amen.
I'm just kidding. Your job is safe here.
If you hold on, if you got Billy Corgan to be your co-host, I would be out on my ass.
Vice versa. I mean, in all fairness.
I mean, it's probably not cost effective at this point to have him for a full episode, but if you I hear his show is doing well, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's making headlines every week from the guests and some of the things he gets out of them. So doing something right.
It took me a second to realize that you had said for the last time. Okay.
Helio has smoked weed with his fat. It's a podcast and you will love it. It's the Indy 500.
Yeah, hi, Billy. This is Christopher Walken. James Taylor just passed out at my house from drinking all my rubbing alcohol, and my guests arrive in 10 minutes. I need rent. A Billy.